Hi, everyone. I'm Megan Dobratz, the founder and owner of Native Sustainability. As Emily mentioned, a sustainability consultancy. We've been around for about 12 years now and work on a variety of different projects that I'll give you a little bit of info on after, but just wanted to start with our team. Small but mighty. It's myself, my project director, Angie Trigg. Annika runs kind of marketing, communication, social media work, and then Jen is working on projects as well. So we're actually working on our elevator speech a little bit. So it's actually good for me to be doing this because the business has ebbed and flowed over the course of the years. So I am kind of a rare bird that got an environmental degree 20 plus years ago and have been lucky to work in the space. As I mentioned, 12 years old, the business. Before that, I came out of 5 years at a nonprofit and then 1 year at a startup. And then I lost my job in 2008 when everybody else did. So ended up doing freelance work for a while and then putting Native Sustainability together. So the work that we do now, we really focus on being really collaborative, flexible, and creative. In fact, there's a couple people on this call that we do work with frequently because what I've learned over the course of time is that we can't be everything for everyone, but we have a whole team of other consultants and support that we can bring into projects as needed. So the broad level work that we're doing includes, broad level sustainability. Actually, I'm going to go this way first and then come back. So you can kind of see some of the clients we're working with, and I can explain some of that work. We have been working with the Shakopee Mdewakanton Sioux tribe for about 9 years now. That is really high level sustainability work, almost functioning and as more of a fractional CSO role where we are helping to guide strategy towards executing their sustainability plan. That looks like insight on renewable energy generation, EV charging infrastructure, waste programming throughout both the casino and tribal operations, a bunch of different tribal enterprises. So a really interesting client in that it is government in addition to businesses. So figuring out programming and projects around that space. We do with the MAC, we are doing waste specific work. They have the same goal as the state of a 75% diversion rate. And so we are helping the team figure out how we're going to get there. So that's everything from deplaned waste and to passenger side terminal projects and working with the concessionaires on food waste recovery, to bin creation, to large, weird industrial items that we are finding opportunities for reuse. And then another project that I'll touch on that we just took on this fall is the Sustainable Growth Coalition. So that is a project that is held under Environmental Initiative, which is a Minnesota-based nonprofit. And that is a group of self-selected sustainability leaders from Fortune 500, Fortune 100s throughout the state. So, opt-in program where they are choosing to be on a coalition together to find opportunities to work on projects together, understanding that the notion that we all do things better together. And so it makes a little bit of a challenge to identify what those projects are. Some of those members include 3M, Best Buy, Winnebago, and you can imagine that their business drivers are a little bit different from each other. So we are helping to facilitate that group, figure out where we have common ground, where there are projects that make sense to partner on together, find opportunities for collaboration, and advance work that will have measurable environmental outcomes. Um, so that's kind of a highlight of some of those big, sorry, flipping through all of them, big some of those projects. But in general, waste consulting, we do what we like to call material matchmaking as well, which is, I think, probably one of my most fun things to do is identifying waste streams from certain clients that may be of benefit to others. Often that is at industrial scale, but finding objects that people um, consider to be waste that actually could be a resource for someone else. Um, we had the opportunity to work several years ago in actually collaboration with Environmental Initiative to do work with the Minnesota Craft Brewers Guild and all of the brewers from throughout the state who had identified spent grain as an option or as a opportunity to look at for sustainability purposes. So the byproduct that comes out of the beer making process. And that is a material that doesn't ever go across a scale as far as waste is concerned, because for 90, I would say 97% of them have a handshake agreement with a farmer throughout the state who will come and cost-free come and pick up that material to feed to their animals. And so it's this really symbiotic system that is out there, but it isn't necessarily being measured or tracked because it's just this handshake agreement. But just this proof that what was considered something that was difficult to get rid of, it is wet, it is heavy, and it spoils within 3 days. But we did a project where we were able to map that system, figure out what was working, what wasn't, ended up creating a directory that was almost like a matchmaking between farmers and brewers to make sure that if the system wasn't broken, but it was really delicate. So if somebody's farmer's truck broke down or they had an injury, who could they call on and meet like as a next step resource to be able to keep that system going? So kind of that innovation that comes into a lot of these projects and the creativity of identifying who's out there and who maybe can use these different sorts of things. As I mentioned, the fractional CSO, we tend to work with complicated systems. I never really planned that, but with between SMSC and the MAC and some work with the state fair, there's a lot of different moving parts and a lot of different people that have to be involved, and not necessarily the large corporate sustainability structure to be able to staff and resource all of that work. And so we bring our expertise, excuse me, in addition to our connections to different resources from outside vendors. A lot of the people on this call are people that I will be able to connect resource-wise, whether it's donations going to bridging or finding financial assistance through some of the grant funding from the counties, from WasteWise, all of that sort of stuff. So being able to connect in those resources. The coalition management and facilitation work. And then I have a background too in some sustainable development. So able to factoring into projects of what are we doing if a project is going to be renovated, what are we doing with that material, product sourcing, sustainable development guides, that sort of work. And then also we do some photography and storytelling. So my team is a bunch of creatives with a lot of art backgrounds as well. And so we're able to plug that in as a resource for our clients. I think in the sustainability realm in general, I don't think we do a good enough job celebrating our wins and telling the stories. And so we're trying to bring some of that to our clients. So current client list of the things that we're working on. We also do the administration for the Solid Waste Association of North America's Minnesota and North Dakota chapter, as well as the Iowa chapter. And then a couple of past projects, partners that we've done some work with. We were able to work actually with Reuse Minnesota a couple of years ago on an assessment of how reuse businesses throughout the state were functioning. And again, kind of what resources could be helpful through marketing channels and opportunities to build websites and just build presence so that people know about all the great work that's out there being done. So that is about it.